welcome back to another episode of Squiggly Motherhood. It is a solo episode, and again, just for anyone who is new here, the solo episode is kind of my personal musings and thoughts to you, my friends, my Squiggly Motherhood community, and I really want you to think of it like a voice note. So it is me doing a voice note to you, giving you some tips, some guidance, some advice, sometimes a little bit of coaching on how you can kind of parent and where a place where I also share some vulnerabilities that I have as well. I'm only ever 100% honest and real with my friends, with the Squiggly Motherhood community. So let's dive straight in. This episode will all be about building up your child's inner script. So that voice that they'll carry with them all throughout life. And I'm going to go into kind of where this interest of mine has come from, why I think it's so important. That's really, really key. And some of the techniques and the things that I do to help build up my child or both my kids inner scripts. And yes, I'm going to be kind of talking about that, really doing a bit of a deep dive and hopefully giving you some techniques that you can take away and that you can use for your own children. So an inner script for children is often built by what they hear about themselves and how certain situations are framed by the adults around them. I'm going to give you an example of that in a minute. Over time, this script kind of influences their confidence, their resilience, the way that they view themselves in the world, and also the way that they handle challenges or mistakes. So let me give you an example to that to make that feel real. Because at the moment, it kind of just feels like words, right? So to make that feel real for you, I'm thinking of a time when my daughter, she loves climbing. She absolutely loves it. And she's a fantastic climber. But we were at the park and there was this big, a new park, and there was this big, like massive frame, and it had very intricate climbing bits. Anyways, she goes over to it because I want to climb it. I'm like, great, exploring her curiosity and being adventurous. Love it. Let's go and climb it. And just to be clear, my attitude to things like that is let's just give it a go. I'm sure we can figure out how we can make it work for you. And that's with both my children. Especially if they show an interest to do something, I'm going to try and find a way to make it work for them. But she goes over to the big climbing frame now and she starts to do it and she trips and she falls. And she's like, oh, mummy. And she's a bit upset. And she's like, I can't do it. This is not for me. This is for bigger kids. I cannot do this. So I had a few ways I could react to this now. I could be like, oh yeah, you're right. I think this is for older kids. Let's move away. But because I know, and I've said to her before, you're such a good climber. This is a skill set that you have. You're really good at it. And also, we are in a family. Well, as I said to you before, I'm very much like, how can we make this work for you? How can we mold it, et cetera, et cetera. So I said to her, this is quite tricky. I agree with you. Some older kids would find this a little bit easier. But let's see how we can make this work for you. How can I help you to make this work? And so I kind of guided her and she was able to climb up the frame quite confidently with some assistance. And I was able to help bring her back down. That action there was me reframing the situation around her, reframing the story that she was telling herself. I can't do this. This is for bigger kids. And I reframed that situation very simply, very easily. Wasn't hard by being like, no, let's do this. Yes, bigger kids may find this easier, but you can still do this. The story she's telling herself is, I can do hard things. And there's a bit of element there around support of adults. Sometimes I need to ask for help. Mummy is there to help support me. Building up confidence, building up resilience, handling challenges. Very simple, easy way, right? Hope that example helped kind of break it down, make it feel clear to you. I want to give you an idea as well as to kind of what's a positive inner script and what is a more critical inner script. So a positive one can sound like, when your child kind of says, or when even as you as an adult, you have an inner script. Us as adults have inner scripts. And I wonder if some of these will resonate with you. I can do hard things. I can try again if I make mistakes. It's okay to ask for help. Through making mistakes, I learn. Positive, helps grow character kind of in a script. Bit more of a critical one. I'm bad when I make mistakes. I always mess things up. I need to be perfect. I'm not capable of this. Bit more critical, a little bit more less, not in that growth mindset that I'm sure a lot of us want our children to be in. I really want to be clear here. The goal is not, and say it again, is not to create kids who never think negatively, because that's unrealistic. That also doesn't fit into my brand. I very much sit in the feelings, sit in the uncomfortable feeling, sit in the sadness, sit in some negativity for a period of time to help you process those more harder feelings that you have. So it's unrealistic to think that our children will never think negatively. Of course they will. And those are very normal, natural emotions to feel. But what it is about is helping them build a script that is compassionate and resilient, and that reminds them that they are loved and capable even on the hard days. That's what's key with building up that inner script. It's that voice that you tell yourself, yes, in the good moments, but in the good moments it's easy, isn't it? You just ride it and it's great. But it's building up that voice that you tell yourself on those harder days, on those days when you didn't get that promotion that you wanted, on those days when you have been given really harsh, critical feedback, on those days when, being quite honest, you feel like you're failing at life, at everything. What's that voice that you tell yourself? Is it one that is positive and practical? Is it one that's critical and damning? You reflect on that, listeners, people who are watching me. You reflect on that. What is the voice that you tell yourself? And what is the voice that you want your children to tell themselves? I lean very much on being more critical. And I want my kids to be more positive. Have that critical voice there sometimes. Sometimes it has a role to play, but sometimes it says nothing other than to make us feel bad about ourselves. What's that role? What's that script that you want your children to hear in those hard days? Because there will be hard days. How do you want them to have an inner script that is compassionate and that is resilient? And we're going to touch on like the stuff you can do there, the stuff that I've learned through having the children. And that's worked really well for me. But before I go into that, I want to give you a little bit of a flavor as to like why I care about this, why this feels really important to me. So for those of you who are new here or may not listen to all the episodes, I am in therapy. I have been in therapy now for a number of years. And one thing that I've learned in therapy is just how much words matter. And I think sometimes we kind of say things flippantly that, oh, words don't matter. Oh. No, words matter. Words have meaning, and we should like communicate in that way, right? We should communicate in a way that reminds everybody that words have meaning, and words really matter. And what we say about ourselves to other people, all of that stuff, it all has an impact. And because I've been in therapy and because I've had that, it probably sounds really obvious to those listening, because I've had that real like understanding of just how much words impact us, especially in childhood. It has really played a part in me really wanting to focus on how I communicate with the children and actually doing that, building up that inner script and building up that, again, that voice they tell themselves specifically in those hard moments. And this is why I feel so passionately about those early years and about kind of like childhood development, because it does have such ramifications and such an impact on how we are as adults. And we really can't focus and grow as adults and ourselves without doing a little bit of reflective work as to how we were brought up and like what happened in our childhood, good, bad, ugly, whatever it may be. But there's definitely a link there between how you are as an adult, how you show up, and how you were brought up as a child as well. So now into the meat of the episode. How do I actively build up my children's inner script? So as I said before, language matters. I'm very intentional about what I say to the kids. But what I really try and focus on is labeling those emotions. That kind of story that I gave with my daughter wanted to climb up the like really complicated, maybe I should even insert a picture. Like it was like a really intricate, complicated climbing frame. It was not the standard ones that you see. like ropes and stuff. Like it was like higgledy-piggledy. Anyways, when we was at the park, that kind of story that I told, it was labeling those emotions throughout. You're feeling nervous. You're feeling a little bit apprehensive. You're unsure. And then once she has done that, labeling the feelings again to say, you should feel so proud of yourself. I'm really proud of you. You did something that was hard. And I appreciate that it was a little bit scary. Labeling those emotions as your child is going through something is so valuable. It's so valuable. And I know I've told people before in the past about this, but they don't know what apprehensive means. They don't know what, proud or frustrated means. Yeah, they don't. But as you continually use that language in the correct context, they will begin to learn, right? How does anybody learn anything? You've got to start from somewhere. You start from a place of not knowing to a place, and then you move gradually to a place of knowing. So now my child can say to me, or she could say to me at a very young age, Mommy, I'm feeling sad, angry, happy, excited, frustrated. And she was able to say, if this happens, I'm going to feel angry. Because we've just embedded it into our language again and again and again. So now she knows what that is. And she also knows what appreciation is. Because I've always said to her, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for doing da-da-da-da. So now in turn, if I do something for her, not all the time does she say this, obviously, but if I was to do something for her, she goes, oh, thank you, Mummy. I really appreciated that. But we have to start using the language to be able to embed that in, to get from a place of not knowing to knowing. I focus very much on like, I can do hard things, and through that focusing on efforts, not just outcomes. So yeah, amazing that she was able to climb up to the top of the frame, like wicked. Yeah, like that's like just wicked. But I'm more interested in her efforts to getting there. And it just reminds me of like, when you're in like sports day and you're running and people go, oh, it's a participation that counts. And sometimes some adults go like, no, it's not, it's about winning. Or maybe that's just me who says that, where I'm like, no, it's about winning, like first, second, or third, those are spots that matter. But actually, as I've learned more about building up a child's inner script, childhood development, it is the participation that matters. It is just going out there and doing it and like giving it like your best try and your effort. Because let's be real, when you're going through life, it is like, you learn so much in the effort, in the journey for getting there, not just the outcome. And when we think about, we're raising our children to be adults. And I think a lot of us forget that sometimes. We're raising our kids to be adults. We're not raising our kids to be able to go into year 2. We're not raising our kids to be able to sit there and SATs. We're raising our kids to be well-rounded, well-grounded, resilient adults. And so we have to put in the legwork to get to our end goal of being well-rounded, resilient, mature, emotionally intelligent adults. Whew, I feel like I just went off into a bit of a... I feel like I just went off there, but I hope you guys are with me and I hope you're kind of following the flows to kind of like what I'm saying. Super quick interruption. If you are enjoying this episode and you think someone would benefit from it, please, please, please share with a friend and don't forget to subscribe. Now back to the episode. Another thing that we kind of do is we focus a lot on how things take practice. And again, it's building up that inner script and it's building up that idea of resilience, that when your child, what you want to do is in those little small moments throughout their lives is have them experience a hardship to be able to build up their tolerance to hard times. And every time they do that, and let's think of it, just bear with me as I help you visualize this. Think of it as you almost have a big tank, right? And it's like a big tank of like resilience. And every time that your child goes through something hard, that's tricky, and this is going to differ depending on ages. Something hard and tricky could be not getting that ice lolly that they desperately wanted, to not being able to, like, they did their 11 plus exams and they didn't get into the grammar school. Big difference, right? Big ramifications. But every time, there's different ramifications for not getting an ice lolly versus not getting into grammar school that they really wanted to, that they really worked hard to get into. But each of those moments is building up resilience. So think of it as like a big tank. And every time your child goes through that hard moment, they're getting a coin and they're popping it into that tank. Pop. Every single time. And sometimes a hard moment may mean that they get 5 coins, 10 coins get added into that resilience tank because it really built up. It was really tricky and it was really hard. It took a lot of emotional reserve to be able to get there. As we're filling up that tank, then we're getting more and more and more resilient. And they're able to have, when they're knocked with things, they're not just knocked onto the floor, they're able to kind of bounce back up relatively quickly. That's what we want to do throughout our kids' lives, right? We don't want it to be the case that the first time that they've had a hardship, they're 21 and it's thrown them and they don't have the tools, they don't have the mechanisms to bring themselves back up. And what they also don't have is that inner script telling them it's okay to make mistakes. This is what you need to do. That inner script that is positive, not critical. And for them to have that inner script that is that has that resilience in their brain, that voice that they tell themselves, they need to go through those hardships. They need to put those coins in that resilient bank. Okay, I hope you're following me with this analogy here. And so what we focus on to help build up those resilience, when those hardships come and to help feed those coins, is we embed in the idea that it takes practice to do things. You ain't gonna be good from the get-go. Okay? Not gonna happen. It takes practice. There will be people that are better than you. It takes doing things again and again and again. And what I've actually do with the kids, sometimes we're doing a puzzle. And I know how to do a puzzle. Yeah. It's an easy puzzle. 16-piece, 32-piece puzzle, whatever it is. And I will go, ooh, I find this really hard. I cannot work out how to do this. And I will model that going through the process of, I don't know how to do this. I'm feeling really stuck. I'm feeling really frustrated. Go through that. And then as we work through that with my kids, getting to a place of actually, I've done this and I can do it. But that very simple thing that we can all do, but it's modeling that can't do it. This is really hard. I find this tricky. So again, that hard thing, build up a bit of resilience there. And I'll really go on about, and I'll really kind of exaggerate the feelings. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so upset. I can't do this. How do I do this? And I'll kind of, my child will kind of coach me through it a little bit. She'll be like, no, let's try this. And what about this? And that's okay. And deeper. And that's her just, again, it's showing what that looks like to see an adult go through something that's tricky and then come to an outcome where I'm able to do the puzzle. But through that modeling, that example that I just gave, several things are happening there. A, my child is able to kind of help me model those feelings. So she's getting some practice in what that looks like. B, she's seeing that everyone finds things hard. And C, we're focusing on getting through the journey, not outcome. So now I might talk to her about, I found that really hard, but I was able to come through it because I practiced, I did this and I did this. And you talked to me and I did my deep breaths. Not so much focusing on the fact that I did the puzzle, but the journey and the effort to get there. And that's just one way that I have been able to kind of build in these, like the inner script, and building that up in a real accessible, easy way. And through that, I will kind of say things like, oh, as I said, that was tricky. I was able to figure it out. Or I'm so proud of myself for trying. I'm really quite big on using that word like proud and just kind of building up that self-esteem. That is so important for our child to have. Focusing again on effort, not necessarily the outcome. And as I kind of wrap up now, I want to give you a little bit of encouragement. And I hope that you felt encouraged throughout the entire episode. And again, we're friends here, right? We're a community. So I want to make sure that you're leaving feeling encouraged and hopeful. I want you to know there's small things, small little changes that you can make with your language and how you approach things that can help build up your child's inner script. So that's like, boom, tick, easy, win. You're going to be great at this. Second thing is that it all adds up. So by this, I mean that sometimes you're doing something, you're like, oh, why am I still doing this? It feels so repetitive. Like, how many times can I pretend that I can't do the puzzle, right? But those small little increments help add up to our children being, again, resilient, having that positive, affirming inner script. If we go back to that tank analogy and we're inputting in our coins and we're building up resilience, I would encourage you to also think of that when it comes to intentional parenting and, thinking about the how we speak about our emotions and building up that inner script. Think of it as, I'm adding stuff into this massive tank. I'm building it in, building it in, building it in. So, and I'm thinking about a long game here. I'm not thinking about the short term. I'm not thinking about, I want to make sure they are X, Y, and Z in 2 months. Nah, you've got a longer game. You're thinking about how they're going to be at 18, 25, 30. When they get knocked and they don't get that job, how are they resilient? What's the emotional intelligence that they have? You're thinking long game. Yeah, always with intentional parenting. It's a long game thing. So I want to say that to you. Feel encouraged that it's the long game. You know what you're trying to achieve, and it's building up those coins, putting the coins in. I also want to encourage you, or I want to leave you thinking about what's important for you. So when you build up your child's inner script, what's important for you to be thinking about, to be conscious, to be aware of? Do you want them to be an individual that knows it's okay to make mistakes? Mistakes equal learning. Do you want them to know that they can do hard things? Do you want them to know that practice is really important and discipline? What's the core things that you think are important and that you want to instill a part of your inner script? And that's going to look different for different people. That could look like, if you're religious, being when you experience a hard thing, you turn to God and you pray. It could be when you experience a hard thing, you turn to community, our families. It will be different for different people, but just have a think about, cool. And you may be thinking cool, I want to do the inner script. I want to do that. Everything Nicole's saying, I get it. I relate to. It's a hard relate to me. But then you take a step back and be like, but what do I want that inner script to be? Sit there with that. Be reflective on it. Link it back to whatever your family values are. Think about what it is that you want your child to be thinking about in a whole heap of different scenarios. Start with 1 or 2 and work on that, and it will build and it will grow. And it will take time. So, yeah, I hope that this episode has been reflective. I hope this episode has been encouraging for you. As I said to you, I'll only ever keep it 100 in a row because we're friends and we're building up a community. So if you have any feedback, if you'd love to be a guest, if you've got any thoughts for me, I can say slide into my DMs. You can do that. Slide into my DMs, or you can email me at squigglymotherhood@gmail.com. So yes, that's a wrap for me, guys. And I will catch up with you next week on the next guest episode. Catch up soon. Bye. I went back to work after my maternity leave and I struggled. I struggled to go to work, to maintain a house, to cook, to clean, to look after 2 toddlers. It was just a lot. The mental load was insane. My to-do list was so long. And I was thinking, what can I do to make my life easier? What can I do to kind of outsource the stuff I have on my to-do list? And the first thing that came to mind was food. And so I turned to HelloFresh. I went online, I picked the recipes that I wanted, the ingredients was delivered straight to my door, and I was able to cook freshly cooked meals for my family in 30 to 40 minutes with the help of my daughter. And just like that, the mental load of having to cook, which I absolutely hated at that point, had completely gone in the bin. So for all my listeners of the podcast, I'm giving you a discount for HelloFresh. So you have one less thing to think about. Go to my show notes, click on the link, and give yourself that discount of HelloFresh today. Remove that extra thing of your to-do list and make your mental load a lot lighter. Check out my show notes now.